My husband called the police, reporting an intruder when I came home late from work as a prank. I was handcuffed on my own lawn while he laughed. I didn't laugh. I pressed charges for filing a false police report and handed him divorce papers the next morning. I never imagined I would end my marriage on my own front lawn, face pressed into grass I'd mowed just 3 days earlier, wrists burning inside cold metal cuffs, while my husband stood on the porch laughing. Not nervously, not in shock. Laughing like this was the best entertainment he'd had all week. I'm 35. I work as an operations manager at a manufacturing facility. I've handled equipment failures, overnight shutdowns, labor disputes, deadlines that would make most people crumble. I'm not fragile. I'm not dramatic. I'm not someone who panics easily. But that night, last Tuesday night, my brain shut down in a way I didn't know was possible. I had texted him at 9, letting him know I was stuck late at work because a machine malfunctioned. Told him I'd be home around 11:30. He replied, "Okay." Nothing strange, nothing emotional. Just another late night in a 7-year marriage. When I pulled into the driveway at 11:45, all I could think about was a shower and sleep. I grabbed my bag, walked toward the front door, slid my key into the lock, and suddenly everything exploded. Sirens, red and blue lights slicing through the dark, 3 police cars screeching to a stop like I was a threat. "Get on the ground, now!" I froze. Completely. My body didn't obey my mind. I remember the smell of damp grass, the sound of my bag hitting the driveway, the pressure of a knee in my back, my cheek smashed into the lawn, my hands yanked behind me, the click of handcuffs echoing in my skull. "This is my house," I tried to say, but my voice came out thin, distant, like it didn't belong to me. They told me there had been a report, an intruder, a break-in. Then the front door opened. I saw him, my husband of 7 years, step outside, phone already raised, camera pointed straight at me. I waited. I expected him to shout, to explain, to tell them they'd made a mistake. Instead, he laughed. "Oh my God," he said between giggles, "you should see your face." That was the moment something inside me went quiet, not angry, not loud, just done. Because fear like that doesn't fade, and love doesn't survive humiliation recorded for fun. That night didn't end with sirens. It ended my marriage. Before that night, before the sirens and the cuffs, and the way my stomach dropped straight through the ground, our marriage looked normal. Not perfect, not cinematic, but stable enough that I never imagined it could end in a police report. I met my husband 7 years ago at a friend's housewarming party. One of those casual evenings where you don't dress up, don't expect anything meaningful to happen. I remember standing in the kitchen, holding a plastic cup of wine, talking about work frustrations. He stepped in beside me, listened, actually listened, and said, "You sound like someone who carries more than they're supposed to." That line stuck with me. He wasn't flashy. He wasn't loud. He had this dry humor, a way of making observations that felt thoughtful instead of judgmental. We talked for almost 2 hours that night, drifting from careers to family to how neither of us liked being the center of attention. When I left, he asked for my number like it mattered. In the beginning, he was attentive in ways that felt reassuring. He checked in. He remembered details. He made plans instead of vague promises. When I talked about my job, the long hours, the pressure, he said he admired my drive. That mattered to me. I'd spent years being told I was too intense or too serious. With him, seriousness felt like a shared language. We dated for 2 years before getting married. No whirlwind, no dramatic proposal in public, just a quiet dinner, him sliding a ring across the table, hands slightly shaking. "I don't want a life that doesn't include you," he said. I believed him. Marriage settled into routines quickly. Mornings overlapping, nights syncing back up. We didn't have kids. By choice, at least for now. We both worked demanding jobs. We joked that our house ran on shared calendars and coffee. But somewhere along the way, his humor shifted. It started small, teasing that went a second too long, jokes that landed harder on me than anywhere else. If I said something bothered me, he'd smirk and say, "Relax, you're so serious all the time." I told myself that's what long-term relationships look like. Comfort, familiarity, rough edges you learn to ignore. Then came his obsession with pranks. At first, it was harmless. Jumping out from behind doors, hiding my keys for a few minutes, recording my reactions, and laughing while I rolled my eyes. He'd say, "You should learn to laugh at yourself." I laughed, because that felt easier than explaining why my chest tightened every time he pulled out his phone. He started watching prank videos constantly, couples humiliating each other for views. Fear turned into content. Discomfort reframed as comedy. I remember once saying, half joking, "Promise you'll never do something like that to me." He grinned. "Come on, I'd never hurt you." I believe that too. Because when you love someone, you assume there's a line they won't cross, even if you never clearly draw it. Looking back now, the signs were there. The way he dismissed consequences. The way he chased reactions instead of connection. The way my comfort slowly became less important than his amusement. But hindsight is generous. At the time, I thought we were just adjusting. I had no idea how wrong I was. The first time I felt something was truly off, it wasn't during one of his jokes. It was after. He'd hidden my work badge the night before an early shift. I tore through the house looking for it, heart pounding, already calculating how late I'd be, what I'd have to explain to my supervisor. When I finally snapped and said, "This isn't funny anymore," he laughed and pulled it from his pocket like a magic trick. See, no harm done. But my hands were still shaking when I clipped it back onto my bag. That was the moment I realized we weren't laughing at the same things. From then on, there was a pattern I couldn't unsee. Every prank followed the same arc: surprise, fear, confusion, then his laughter, then my reaction being minimized. If I stayed quiet, he accused me of being cold. If I spoke up, he said I was dramatic. "You're too sensitive," he told me more than once. "Normal people can take a joke." I started choosing my words carefully, like stepping around loose floorboards. I told myself it wasn't worth a fight. That marriage required flexibility. That maybe I really did need to lighten up. But the jokes escalated. He posted a short clip once, just my startled face when he banged on the bathroom door while I was half asleep. Nothing viral, barely any views. Still, the comment section ate it up. People laughing, encouraging him, telling him he should do more. I asked him to take it down. "Why?" he said, genuinely confused. "People think it's funny." "I don't," I replied. He shrugged. "It's not that serious." That sentence became his shield. Around that time, he started talking about how boring our lives had become. Same routines, same conversations. "We need excitement," he said. "Something spontaneous." I thought he meant travel, or date nights, or doing something together. I didn't realize he meant me as the content. There were other things too. Subtle, easy to dismiss things. He started recording moments without asking, leaving his phone face up on the counter, camera ready, like he was always waiting for something to happen. If I noticed and frowned, he'd say, "Relax, I'm not filming you." But sometimes he was. I began to feel watched in my own house, like my reactions were being evaluated instead of respected, like my fear, my annoyance, my discomfort were all potential punchlines. I tried to talk to him, not confrontational, just honest. "I don't like being scared," I said one night, "especially not by you." He sighed, rubbed his face, like I was asking for something unreasonable. "I just don't get why you're making this such a big deal." That was when the distance crept in. Not loud, not obvious, just a quiet pulling apart. I stopped sharing parts of my day. He stopped listening when I did. And beneath all of it, there was a feeling I couldn't name yet, a sense that he cared more about reactions than consequences, more about being entertained than being trusted. Still, I never thought he'd go as far as he did, because who would call the police on their own spouse as a joke? I didn't know the answer to that question yet. Last Tuesday started like any other workday that quietly overstays its welcome. I arrived at the plant early, coffee still too hot to drink, already running through a checklist in my head. By mid-afternoon, one of the primary machines on the line started acting up. A sensor failure. Minor at first, until it wasn't. Production stalled. Supervisors hovered. Calls started coming in. The repair team was delayed. By the time I realized I wouldn't be home on time, the sky outside the windows had already begun to darken. I texted my husband around 9. Stuck at work. Equipment malfunction. Might be late. Home around 11:30. A few seconds later, my phone buzzed. Okay. No questions, no frustration, nothing unusual. I stayed until the repair team finished, signed off reports, made sure everything was stable, the kind of night that leaves your shoulders tight and your thoughts slow. All I wanted was quiet. I pulled into our driveway at 11:45 p.m. The house was dark except for the porch light. Normal. Familiar. I parked, grabbed my bag, closed the car door, and walked up the path. The air smelled like freshly cut grass. I remember thinking I should mow again before the weekend. I put my key into the lock. That's when the sirens hit. The sound came from nowhere and everywhere at once. Sharp, violent, overwhelming. Red and blue lights flooded the driveway, washing over the house, the trees, my car. 3 police vehicles screeched in like they'd been waiting for me. Doors flew open. Get on the ground, now! Hands where we can see them. My body froze before my mind could catch up. I didn't understand what was happening. My bag slipped from my hand. I dropped forward, face first onto my own lawn. Cold grass pressed against my cheek. A knee slammed into my back. My arms were yanked behind me. The cuffs snapped shut, metal biting into skin. We got a call about an intruder breaking into this residence, one of the officers said. Stay calm. I live here, I said, or tried to. My voice sounded far away. This is my house. No one reacted. I stared at the front door from the ground, heart hammering so hard it felt like it might break through my ribs. Please, I thought. Please let him come out. Please let him explain. The door opened. I saw my husband step onto the porch, phone already raised, camera pointed directly at me. I waited for him to say my name. Instead, he laughed. A real laugh, loud, unrestrained. Oh my God, he said between giggles. You should see your face. One of the officers looked back and forth between us. Sir, do you know this woman? My husband laughed again, breathless with amusement. That's my wife, he said. I called you guys. It was a prank. The word hung in the air. A prank. The officers went still. Their expressions shifted, not confusion anymore, but something heavier. Disbelief, irritation. They removed the cuffs slowly. One of them helped me to my feet. No one smiled. No one laughed. Sir, the older officer said to my husband, filing a false police report is a serious crime. It was just a joke, he said, waving his phone. Lighten up. I looked at him then, really looked at him, and felt something inside me break cleanly in half. Officer, I said, my voice steady despite the way my hands trembled. I want to press charges. His laughter stopped instantly. What? I want to press charges for filing a false police report. They took our statements, explained the potential charges. My husband's amusement collapsed into panic in minutes. I slept in the guest room that night. I didn't say a word. At 6 the next morning, I knocked on the bedroom door and handed him an envelope. Divorce papers. I didn't cry that night. Not when I locked the guest room door. Not when I lay awake staring at the ceiling, listening to the house settle around me. Not even when the image replayed in my head. Grass against my cheek, the weight of a knee on my back, the sound of him laughing. My body was too busy staying upright. I lay there with my hands folded over my stomach, fingers still aching where the cuffs had pressed into my skin. Every few minutes, my heart would spike for no reason at all, like it was expecting sirens to come back. I focused on breathing, in through my nose, out through my mouth, slow, controlled. I'd learned that trick years ago at work during crisis drills. I never thought I'd need it at home. At some point, I heard him pacing. The floorboards creaked outside the bedroom. His footsteps paused, then retreated. No apology, no explanation, just movement. Restless, irritated, inconvenienced. That hurt more than I expected. Morning came too fast. At 6, I showered in silence. The water stung my wrists. Purple marks had already bloomed where the cuffs had been. I stared at them longer than necessary, like my brain needed proof that it had really happened. When I knocked on our bedroom door, my hand didn't shake. He opened it looking wrecked, eyes red, face tight, hair uncombed. For a split second, something like hope flickered in his expression, like he thought I was there to talk, to forgive. I handed him the envelope. What's this? He asked, already defensive. Divorce papers. The word landed hard. You can't be serious, he said, flipping through them like they might change if he read fast enough. Over a joke? I met his eyes, really met them. Your prank proved something, I said. You don't respect me. You don't think about consequences, and you thought my fear was funny. He scoffed. You're blowing this out of proportion. That was it. Not remorse, not horror, not understanding. Deflection. I walked past him and started packing a bag. Just the essentials. Clothes, laptop, documents. He followed me down the hall, voice rising, swinging between anger and disbelief. This could have been funny, he said. Everyone pranks each other. You're acting like I tried to hurt you. You did hurt me, I said, zipping the bag. You just didn't care. He went quiet then, eyes narrowing. So you're really doing this. You're going to destroy our marriage over one mistake. I turned to face him. My chest felt tight, but my voice didn't waver. If it had gone differently, if I'd moved the wrong way, if an officer misread a gesture, I could be dead. That's not a mistake, that's recklessness. He had no answer for that. I left that morning and went to my brother's place. He didn't ask questions. He just opened the door, took my bag, and said, "You're safe here." That word, safe, hit me harder than anything else. Later that day, my phone started ringing. Over and over. I didn't answer. By evening, the texts started piling up. Apologies. Then anger. Then apologies again. A cycle I recognized too well. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. You're seriously going to ruin everything over this? It was a prank. Lighten up. Please come home." I turned my phone face down and sat there, listening to my own heartbeat. Because for the first time since the sirens faded, I understood something clearly. This wasn't about the police. It wasn't even about fear. It was about trust. And once that broke, there was no going back. The fallout didn't arrive all at once. It poured in. By the fourth day, I stopped counting the missed calls. 200 would have been a conservative estimate. I blocked his number after the first 50, but that didn't slow anything down. He started calling from unfamiliar numbers. Friends' phones, family phones, even numbers with no names attached. My voicemail filled up fast. The tone shifted every few messages. "Baby, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. Please come home." 2 minutes later, "You're seriously going to throw away 7 years over this? You're being ridiculous." Then, "Everyone thinks you're overreacting. It was one mistake." Every message carried the same undertone. "You're the problem now." I didn't respond to any of them. The police citation came through shortly after. Filing a false report, misuse of emergency services, interference with police operations, potential fines, possible jail time, unlikely, but not off the table. That's when his panic turned outward. He showed up at my brother's apartment one evening and pounded on the door for 20 minutes straight. I watched from the hallway as my brother's wife called the police. When the officers arrived, they told him to leave or risk being arrested for trespassing. He left screaming, "You're ruining my life over nothing." I didn't step outside. I didn't engage. The next call came from his parents. That conversation felt unreal, like listening to strangers defend something I'd lived through with my body. His father spoke first, calm, measured. "Don't you think you're being a bit extreme?" "Extreme." "He made a mistake," his mother added quickly. "She apologized. Isn't that enough?" "No," I said. My voice surprised me with how steady it sounded. "It's not." "You're really going to throw away 7 years over one bad decision?" his father pressed. I took a breath. If that decision had gone differently, I could have been shot. Do you understand that? Silence. Finally, his mother spoke again, softer this time. "He didn't think." "And that," I said, "is the problem." They tried every angle after that. Forgiveness, marriage vows, counseling, in sickness and in health. I listened, then said the one thing that ended the conversation. "Marriage is also about not terrorizing your spouse for entertainment." They didn't have a response for that. A day later, my brother's wife told me something that made my stomach drop all over again. The video. He hadn't just recorded it for fun. He'd planned to post it. A prank. A clip. Content. He'd told his best friend, who told her, who told me. Pranking my wife with the cops or something equally casual. That was when the last trace of doubt disappeared. My lawyer confirmed what I already knew. The divorce would be straightforward. Joint assets, house, savings, 2 cars, a clean split under state law. I didn't argue. I didn't negotiate. I just wanted out. His lawyer reached out soon after, suggesting counseling instead of divorce, a chance to work through this misunderstanding. My lawyer replied with a polite, firm no. The criminal case moved forward anyway. The prosecutor had the 911 recording, his voice describing an intruder, me knowing I was coming home, the body cam footage, the laughter, the admission. There was no spinning that. Work was supportive. My boss told me to take whatever time I needed. "That's traumatic," he said. "Anyone would need space." At night, though, sleep didn't come easily. Every time I closed my eyes, I was back on the lawn. This time, the officers didn't stop. This time, they didn't realize their mistake. I woke up gasping more than once. When my brother asked if I was sure about the divorce, what if he's genuinely sorry, I answered without hesitation. "He's sorry there are consequences," I said. Not that he did it. And deep down, I knew that was the truth. The quiet was the hardest part. Not the yelling, not the accusations, not even the legal paperwork stacking up on the kitchen table at my brother's place. It was the moments when nothing happened, when the phone stopped vibrating for an hour, when the apartment lights dimmed at night, when my body finally slowed down enough to realize how unsafe it had felt. That's when it hit me. I couldn't sleep without checking the locks. Twice. Sometimes 3 times. I'd lie in bed listening for sounds that weren't there, heart thudding like it was still waiting for sirens to cut through the dark. Every unexpected noise made my shoulders tense. Every knock, real or imagined, sent a jolt through me. I kept seeing the same image, my face pressed into the lawn, the cold bite of metal, the laughter behind me. In the dream, it always went worse. The officers didn't stop. They didn't listen. They didn't realize their mistake. I woke up with my breath trapped in my chest, fingers curled like they were still trying to protect my wrists. During the day, I functioned. That part of me was well practiced. I answered emails. I attended meetings remotely. I spoke clearly, calmly. No one would have guessed anything was wrong by the way I sounded. But inside, I felt hollowed out. My brother asked me one night gently, "Do you ever think about forgiving him?" I didn't answer right away. Forgiveness wasn't the hard part. I wasn't angry in the way people expect. I wasn't plotting revenge. I wasn't replaying arguments to win them later. I just felt disconnected, like something essential had been switched off. "I don't hate him," I finally said. "I just don't trust him." He nodded. He understood. Friends were less consistent. Mine were solid, angry on my behalf, protective, validating. His friends were divided. A few reached out to say they were sorry. Others stayed silent. One message made it through before I blocked the number. "Don't you think divorce is harsh?" It was a stupid prank that went wrong. I stared at the screen for a long time before replying. "If your partner called armed officers to your home as a joke, would you trust them again?" No response came after that. The house, our house, went up for sale during that stretch. I didn't drive by. I couldn't. Just thinking about the driveway made my chest tighten. The realtor handled everything. Offers came in faster than I expected. The market was good. Everyone said so, like that softened the loss. At night, doubt crept in quietly. 7 years is a long time. I thought about the early days, the kitchen conversations, the way he'd once said he admired my strength. I wondered if I'd missed something obvious, if I'd enabled this by staying silent too often, if there was something I could have done differently. Then I remembered his face that night. Not confused, not scared, amused. That's when the doubt dissolved into something heavier, grief. Not for the marriage as it was, but for what I thought it was supposed to be. For the version of myself who believed safety was implied. For the trust I hadn't realized I was giving away until it was shattered. I started therapy during that time. The therapist called it betrayal trauma. Said it wasn't just the prank, it was the violation of safety by the person who was supposed to protect it. That label didn't fix anything, but it helped me stop questioning my sanity. Still, there were nights when I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering how a single moment could erase 7 years, wondering if this pain would always live this close to the surface. That was my lowest point. Not loud, not dramatic, just heavy and dark. The court date came faster than I expected. 3 weeks after the night on the lawn, I found myself sitting on a hard wooden bench in a courtroom that smelled faintly of disinfectant and old paper. My hands were folded in my lap, knuckles pale, heart steady in a way that surprised me. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't angry. I was ready. He was there, sitting with his lawyer. His parents filled the row behind him, his sister, a few friends I recognized. He didn't look at me at first. When he finally did, there was something in his eyes I hadn't seen before. Fear. The prosecutor didn't dramatize anything. She didn't need to. She played the 911 recording. His voice filled the courtroom, calm, deliberate, describing an intruder breaking into our home. My description, my schedule, our address. He'd known I was coming home. He'd known exactly what he was doing. Then the body cam footage. There I was, face down on the lawn. There he was, laughing, filming, admitting it was a prank. The room was silent when the video ended. His lawyer tried to soften it. A lapse in judgment, no malicious intent, a joke that went too far. The judge looked directly at him. "Do you understand that filing a false police report diverts emergency resources from real emergencies?" "Yes," he said, "but I didn't think about it like that at the time. I just thought it would be funny." The judge didn't raise her voice. "You thought having armed officers confront your wife in your driveway would be funny?" He hesitated. "When you say it like that, it sounds bad." "It is bad." The sentence landed with finality. The ruling followed quickly. A $2,500 fine, 100 hours of community service, 18 months of probation, mandatory counseling, anger management, decision-making classes, a formal apology letter to the police department. No jail time. I exhaled slowly. I didn't want him locked up. I wanted acknowledgement. Consequences. Something that said this mattered. Outside the courtroom, his family erupted. His mother cornered me, eyes sharp with accusation. Are you happy now? You've destroyed his life. I met her gaze. I didn't destroy anything. He did. He made one mistake, she snapped. One mistake that could have gotten me killed, I replied, and one he recorded for entertainment. His sister jumped in, voice shaking with anger. You're supposed to love him, through better or worse. Worse doesn't include calling armed police on your spouse as a prank, I said. That's not in the vows. His father didn't argue. He just stood there, face tight, and looked away. He tried to approach me then. His lawyer stepped in front of him immediately. Don't. You're on probation. Any harassment complaints could violate it. He shouted from across the parking lot, I hope you're happy. You got what you wanted. I didn't raise my voice. I wanted a husband who didn't think terrorizing me was entertainment, I said. That was apparently too much to ask. That was the moment something shifted. Not because he finally understood, but because I did. This wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about punishment. It was about choosing myself, clearly, publicly, without apology. For the first time since the sirens faded, I felt grounded. Steady. Free. The consequences didn't end at the courthouse steps. They followed him home. Mediation began a week later. A neutral office, beige walls, a long table that felt too small for everything we weren't saying. I sat across from him, hands folded, posture straight. He kept shifting in his chair, tapping his foot, sighing loudly like the process itself was an inconvenience. The mediator went through the assets calmly. The house, the savings account, the cars, everything split down the middle, just as the law required. Fair, clean, impersonal. When the house came up, I didn't look at him. The market was strong, 3 offers already on the table. We agreed to accept the highest one. After the mortgage payoff and fees, we'd each walk away with just over $80,000. He barely reacted. Then we got to the dog. We'd adopted the golden retriever 3 years earlier. He claimed the dog was his because he fed him more. I didn't argue. I slid the folder across the table. Vet bills in my name, license in my name, adoption paperwork signed by me. The mediator flipped through the documents and nodded. The dog will remain with her. His composure cracked. She's taking my dog, he snapped. That's my dog. The mediator looked uncomfortable. This is a fairly equitable split. I don't care about equitable, he shot back. That's my dog. I stayed quiet, let him unravel. Watching him spiral over a dog, after everything, felt surreal. Like the scale of harm had never quite registered for him. We settled quickly after that. I kept the dog. He took some furniture he cared about. No dramatics, no concessions beyond what was fair. Afterward, my lawyer leaned over and said quietly, I've never seen someone so focused on winning while completely missing why they lost. It was the most accurate summary I'd heard. Probation hit him harder than he expected. The community service requirement irritated him. He had to log hours at a food bank or homeless shelter, get signatures, stay accountable. He complained to anyone who would listen. His friends flooded social media with support. Stay strong. This is so unfair. One of them commented under a post, can't believe she pressed charges over a joke. A friend of mine replied before I even saw it, can't believe he called armed cops on his wife as a prank. He was blocked minutes later. His probation officer wasn't patient. When he missed his first counseling session, claiming he forgot, the warning was immediate. Miss another and face jail time. Suddenly, he remembered every appointment. I moved forward quietly. The apartment I'd applied for was approved. 1 bedroom. Big windows, a quiet neighborhood, perfect for me and the dog. I signed the lease without hesitation. He kept texting from new numbers. We can fix this. Please don't give up on us. Can we at least talk face to face? I replied once. No, everything goes through lawyers. The last message he sent before I blocked that number read, I miss you. I stared at it for a long time. Then I typed, you miss having someone to control and humiliate. That's not the same as missing me. I blocked him. The house sold shortly after. Asking price. Clean close. When the funds hit my account, I didn't feel relief. I felt closure. Sleep improved, slowly. The nightmares came less often. I stopped flinching at every sound. I wasn't healed, but I was no longer trapped. The divorce was finalized 2 months later. No ceremony, no drama, just signatures and stamps, and the quiet understanding that 7 years of marriage had been reduced to a completed file. I walked out of the building alone, the air outside feeling lighter than it had in months. The house sold at asking price. After the mortgage payoff and fees, I walked away with just over $80,000. He received the same. He spent a chunk of it almost immediately, posted photos of a new car online with captions about fresh starts and living his best life. His friends cheered him on. Someone commented, "Didn't he just get convicted of a crime?" The comment disappeared within minutes. His probation continued. He logged community service hours at a food bank, occasionally posting selfies with captions about giving back. The responses were mixed. Some praised him. Others weren't fooled. One comment read, "Isn't this court ordered?" The post vanished an hour later. The anger management classes weren't going well either. I heard through his sister's husband, someone I'd always gotten along with, that he'd walked out of a session after the counselor suggested he had impulse control issues and a pattern of seeking attention through inappropriate behavior. He claimed the counselor was biased. His probation officer didn't agree. He went back. My life quietly kept moving forward. I settled into the apartment, painted the bedroom, bought new furniture. The dog claimed the couch within days. Mornings were calmer, evenings were quiet. The kind of quiet that doesn't press down on you. Work noticed the shift, too. My boss pulled me aside one afternoon. "You've been handling a lot personally," he said, "but your performance hasn't slipped. That says something." A week later, I was promoted, senior operations manager. A solid raise. It didn't erase what I'd lost, but it reminded me who I was. I didn't rush into dating. I wasn't ready. My therapist said that was healthy. Healing doesn't respond well to deadlines. He, on the other hand, moved on quickly. Photos with someone new appeared online barely weeks after the divorce finalized. New beginnings, moving forward. I gave it 3 months before the pattern repeated. Something unexpected happened around that time. His best friend asked if we could meet for coffee. I agreed. She apologized. Not defensively, not halfway. "I encouraged the prank," she admitted. "I thought it would be funny. I didn't think about how terrifying it would be for you. I'm really sorry." I appreciated that. It restored a small piece of faith I didn't realize I'd lost. My brother threw a small divorce party for me. Nothing wild, pizza, a few close friends, video games, laughter without tension. No one joked about the arrest or the cuffs. They didn't need to. A friend's date asked me once if I'd ever considered forgiving him. "I don't hate him," I said, "but forgiveness isn't the same as reconciliation. You can't rebuild a marriage without trust." That felt true. The last message I ever received from him came from another unknown number. "I finally get it. I'm genuinely sorry." I stared at it for a long time. Then I remembered the laughter, the camera, the anger when I pressed charges, the way accountability only appeared once consequences became permanent. Some people learn, some people grow, and some people just learn what to say. I didn't reply. I blocked the number. Tonight, I'm sitting in my apartment. The dog is asleep on the couch. I have a book in my lap and a glass of wine on the table. No pranks, no fear, no cameras pointed at my pain. The divorce cost me money, a house, 7 years of my life, but it gave me something far more valuable. Proof that I will protect myself, that I won't excuse cruelty disguised as humor, that I know my worth. He got consequences. I got my freedom. If you've made it this far, thank you for sitting with this story. Stories like this aren't just about betrayal or divorce. They're about boundaries, about the moment you realize that love without safety isn't love at all, that humor without empathy becomes cruelty, and that staying silent to keep the peace can cost you far more than walking away ever will. If you've experienced something similar, if someone dismissed your fear, minimized your pain, or told you that you were overreacting, know this: your reaction is not the problem. The behavior is. Healing doesn't happen all at once. It happens quietly, in small choices, in choosing yourself when no one else will. Thank you to everyone who's shared their own stories and offered support in the comments. You're not alone, and your voice matters more than you think. If this story resonated with you, consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. It helps this channel reach more people who might need to hear that they're not crazy for walking away. I'll see you in the next video, and in the meantime, take care of yourself.